Welcome to tonight's broadcast. Tonight's story reminds us that sometimes the people we fear most aren't strangers we meet for the first time. They're strangers who have been watching us for weeks without us realizing it. If you're heading to the movies tonight, you might want to look around the parking lot before you leave. Turn on the lights and let's begin. Hello, tonight's broadcast. My name is Daniel. This happened last October. I still don't park anywhere without checking every mirror first. It all started with a car. Nothing dramatic, nothing that should have made me nervous. Just a gray four-door sedan. One Tuesday morning, I stepped outside my townhouse to leave for work. About halfway down the street sat a gray sedan, engine running and windows tinted. I assumed someone was waiting for a friend. I didn't think about it again. The next morning, same car, same place. The driver never got out. I slowed down while walking to my truck. The sedan pulled away before I could see who was inside. I laughed it off. There were plenty of reasons someone could be parked there. Maybe they lived nearby. Maybe they worked nights. Maybe I was simply noticing the same car because it stood out. A week passed. Then I saw it again. Only this time, it wasn't on my street. I was buying groceries after work. As I loaded my bag into my truck, I noticed the gray sedan parked 3 rows away. Someone sat behind the wheel, watching. I couldn't make out a face through the tinted windows. The moment I looked directly at it, the car backed out, slowly, then drove away. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I told myself I was overreacting. After all, gray sedans aren't exactly rare. 2 days later, I stopped for coffee before work. Guess what was in the parking lot across the street? The same sedan. Or at least, I convinced myself it was. When I looked over, it drove away again. Now I was paying attention. For the next 2 weeks, I started noticing little things. Someone had walked across my front yard during the night. My garbage had been moved. Once, my porch light was unscrewed just enough not to work. None of it proved anything, but together, they didn't feel like coincidence anymore. I considered calling police. Then I imagined explaining it. There's a gray car. That's all I had. No plate number, no driver's description, nothing. Halloween weekend arrived. A few friends invited me to watch the late horror movie. I almost stayed home. Instead, I convinced myself getting out would help clear my mind. The theater was packed, teenagers laughing in the lobby, families bought popcorn. Everything felt normal. For almost 2 hours, I forgot about the sedan. The movie ended close to midnight. My friends headed one direction and I in the other. I parked near the far edge of the lot because I'd arrived late. The farther I walked, the quieter everything became. Most cars had already left. Only scattered lights remained. I unlocked my truck from about 20 feet away. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I glanced over my shoulder. A man wearing a black hoodie walked between parked cars. His face disappeared beneath the hood. I kept walking. The footsteps sped up. Mine did too. So did his. My truck suddenly felt miles away. I hit the unlock button again. The headlights flashed, and the man broke into a run. I sprinted. Just as I reached my driver's door, someone grabbed my backpack. The strap yanked me backward. I hit the pavement, and the man landed beside me. Before I could scream, he covered my mouth. His voice was calm, almost friendly. I've been waiting a long time. My heart stopped. He knew me, or thought he did. I bit his hand as hard as I could. He yelled. I kicked backward blindly. My heel connected with his knee, and he stumbled. I threw myself into the truck, locked the doors, and he slammed both hands against the driver's window. Then, he smiled, not angry, satisfied, as if this wasn't over. He reached into his hoodie pocket. For one terrified second, I thought he had a gun. Instead, he held up a photograph. It was me, leaving my house. He pressed it against the window, then walked away. I called 911 before I could even start the truck. Police arrived within minutes. Officers searched the parking lot. The man had disappeared. I spent nearly 3 hours giving my statement, and honestly, I expected nothing to happen. Then, the detective called me the following afternoon. They had found the suspect. A patrol officer had noticed a gray sedan parked behind an abandoned shopping center. The driver matched my description. Inside the vehicle, investigators found something far worse than weapons. There were folders, labeled with my name, hundreds of photographs, me mowing my lawn, walking into work, buying groceries, getting coffee, taking my trash to the curb. Pictures from months earlier. Some had obviously been taken from inside nearby buildings, others from across parking lots. There were printed maps showing my daily routines, my work schedule, receipts from places I visited. A notebook listed what time my bedroom lights usually turned off. What terrified me the most was the final page. At the top it read, "Movie night." Below that was the exact theater, the exact showtime, and underneath, one sentence: "Tonight is the night." Police later learned the man had stalked several people over the years. He collected information, followed routines, waited until he believed he knew everything about his victim. Then he attacked. Thankfully, I was the first one to escape. Detectives told me they found enough evidence inside the sedan to solve multiple stalking cases across the state. I moved a few months later, changed jobs, installed security cameras, bought brighter floodlights. Some habits never disappear. Even now, before leaving any store, I look across every parking lot, searching, just in case. Sometimes I still see a gray sedan. My heart always skips a beat. Then I remind myself, it's probably someone else's car. Probably. But every now and then, I wonder if somewhere, someone else has started noticing the same gray sedan parked down their street, watching and waiting, learning everything about them, long before they even realized they're being hunted. The first story showed us that sometimes danger follows us for weeks before finally revealing itself. The next story is different. Most of us think we're safe inside a crowded movie theater, surrounded by dozens of people. We assume nothing could possibly happen. But what if the person sitting behind you didn't come to watch the movie? What they came for is to watch you. Turn down the lights, because this is seat number 13. My name is Melissa. This happened 3 years ago. I still refuse to sit through the ending credits of any movie, not because of what happened on the screen, but because of what happened after the lights came back on. It started with a note, a tiny folded piece of paper tucked beneath the windshield wiper. It simply read, "You looked beautiful today." There wasn't a name, no phone number, nothing. I assumed someone had mistaken my car for someone else's, so I threw it away. A week later, I found another note, this time outside my gym. It read, "Blue is definitely your color." I had been wearing a blue sweatshirt. Someone had seen me, someone close enough to notice. Again, I ignored it. Friends joked that I had a secret admirer. I laughed with them. But deep down, something felt wrong. Over the next month, the notes kept appearing on my windshield, in my shopping bags. Once, inside the pocket of my work jacket hanging in the employee break room. That terrified me. Whoever was leaving them had gotten inside the building. Police told me there wasn't much they could do. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no cameras showing who left them. So I tried changing my routine. Different grocery stores, different gas stations, different routes home, and the notes stopped for almost 3 weeks. I convinced myself it was finally over. Then my younger sister asked if I wanted to see the newest horror movie. It had just opened. We bought tickets for the 9:40 showing. The theater was packed. People laughed while waiting in line. The smell of popcorn filled the lobby. Everything felt completely normal. We found our seats, row G, seats 12 and 13. The previews started. About 20 minutes into the movie, I noticed someone sitting directly behind me. Nothing unusual, except every time I shifted, they shifted too. If I leaned left, they leaned left. If I sat back, they sat back. I whispered to my sister. She looked behind us. Just some guy, she whispered. I tried to focus on the movie. Then, something brushed against my hair, very lightly, almost like someone accidentally touched it. I turned around. The man behind me smiled. I'm sorry, he whispered. I dropped something. I believed him until it happened again, 10 minutes later. This time, I knew he hadn't dropped anything. He was touching my hair. I told my sister I wanted to leave. She agreed immediately. As we stood up, the man remained seated, watching us. He never looked back towards the screen, only at me. We hurried into the hallway. I expected him to stay inside. Instead, he walked out about 30 seconds later, keeping his distance, following us towards the lobby. We didn't run, not yet. I told myself maybe we were imagining it. Then he stopped at the customer service counter. Without taking his eyes off me, he wasn't buying anything. He wasn't asking questions. He was simply watching. We headed outside. The parking lot wasn't empty, but it wasn't crowded anymore either. We had almost reached my car when I realized my keys were gone. I searched every pocket, and nothing. My sister called my phone. No answer. Then we heard it, a beep. Behind us, the man stood beside a black SUV, holding my keys. He smiled. I think you dropped these. He hadn't found them. He had taken them. My sister grabbed my arm. We turned and ran back towards the theater. The man started walking after us, not running, walking, as though he knew we'd never get far. The theater manager locked the front door and called 911. The man disappeared before police arrived. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Security cameras inside the theater revealed something horrifying. When I entered the auditorium, the man was already sitting in seat 13, the exact seat I had been assigned. He quietly moved to the row behind us after we arrived, almost as if he had planned to sit beside me all along. Police identified him 2 days later. They searched his apartment, and inside, they discovered an entire wall covered with photographs, not just of me, of dozens of women, each one organized into folders, names, workplaces, favorite restaurants, movie theaters, gym schedules. He had notebooks describing where each woman liked to sit inside different theaters. Detectives later told me something that still gives me chills. They recovered his online account. He reviewed movie theaters across the state, not because he loves movies, because crowded theaters made it easy to watch people without being noticed. His account contained one sentence investigators never forgot. Everyone looks at the screen, nobody looks behind them. I quit going to late night movies. I always sit near exits now. If someone sits directly behind me in an otherwise empty theater, I move, every single time. Maybe it makes me look paranoid. Maybe it does, but if one person hears my story, turns around, and notices someone watching them, then maybe they'll leap before it's too late. Because monsters don't always hide in abandoned buildings. Sometimes they buy a ticket, sit one row behind you, and wait patiently for the credits to roll. And that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. I hope these stories kept you looking over your shoulder and maybe thinking twice the next time you leave a late night movie. If you enjoyed tonight's stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another broadcast. If you have a true crazy experience you'd like to share, email me at tonight'sbroadcast77@gmail.com. You might hear your story featured in a future episode. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your instincts, and remember, not everyone who watches a movie is watching the screen. Until the shadows call again. Good night.